It is really hard for me to describe the new Amazing Spider-Man series. I think it's volume 6. I came out in 2022, but it's hard for me to describe this in just one panel. So I'm gonna have to do 2 panels. All right, that's 4 panels. I'm gonna have to do 2 panels. I'm not a crook. I'm gonna have to do 2 panels because that's kind of how the series is. It's a little disjointed. All right. So the first part is this. And it's from issue number 3. What I'm saying is, a dog bites a man and you ask, who's been kicking the dog? A man bleeds another man and you only ask how big a cage you should throw him in because he's bad. That's the part of Amazing Spider-Man, the new series, that I love. Now here's the other half of the Amazing Spider-Man series you can expect. This is from issue number 8. Mother effer, are you steering me? Maybe. Yeah. Welcome back to Why I Collect Comics. My name is Ken, and so today we're talking about the Amazing Spider-Man series, Volume 6, and my recommendations for it. So it's divided up into different sections. So each one of those sections you can find down below in the description of this video. You can find it in a book if you don't want to collect the comics. And go ahead and check out the links down below. And it's to Amazon, and it helps me out. And so that'd be great if you are inclined. Or you can just collect the issues like I do. I like to collect the single issues. I don't collect the books. So the part that I really loved, that drew me in, was one, the artwork, again, on the issues. I thought the cover artwork was great. I really enjoyed it. What I was let down on is when I opened it up and the panels themselves, I wasn't in love with the artwork in that. So the series suffers a little bit because it doesn't have one main artist working on every single issue. John Romita Jr. is the main artist, I guess, that is kind of pitched as a character that is a writer, an artist that has worked on other series for Spider-Man. And his father, I believe, worked on the Hobgoblin series. And so, they were talking about bringing him back for this this new version of Spider-Man. And I was really sold on the cover art. But then when I started reading, looking at the panels, there's a lot of weird jaw issues. Everyone has a square jaw, which is okay for Spider-Man and Tombstone and everything like that. But Mary Jane has a square jaw. And she should not have a square jaw, okay? That looks weird on her. And then in another issue, issue number 6, J. Jonah Jameson looks like he has, I don't know, he's emaciated. He looks like he has cancer or something, which I thought they were going to talk about when I saw him. Oh, God, does J. Jonah Jameson have some sort of illness and sickness that he needs to go to? It looks too cartoonish. So while I'm being a big critic about the artwork here, I want you to know that I am by no means an expert on this. Artwork wasn't necessarily the thing I love about comics. I really like the story more than anything else. I like the characters in it. Just don't take me out of the story with the artwork. And that's what this does sometimes. I'll notice the artwork and it'll look weird to me. Like I said, with the square jaw in Mary Jane in one issue and the emaciated J. Jonah Jameson, and it takes me out of the story. And it makes me very aware that I'm reading a comic and, a cartoonish comic, and then I'm just not as invested in it. Now, the artist to me that saves this series, and the one that I wish they would use more and more and more, is Patrick Gleason. And I don't normally know the names of artists, okay? I couldn't tell you the names of any artists in any of the other comic book series I read, but because it was such a big difference, I had to look at who drew this. I'm okay, this is a different tone. This is a different setting. The artwork in this is amazing. It sucks me in and it pulls me in. And I notice it, but for the right reasons. And I noticed it in issue 9 is when he first makes the appearance. He's done some variant issues before as well. He's got a great Vulture variant issue, I think for number 7. That is very, very cool. But he just says he really gets the details down. And there was this one page just with Mary Jane and her talking to Spider-Man, and you could see the pain behind Spider-Man's face, even though he's wearing a mask. You could see it in this comic panel. And Mary Jane, the smudge of makeup, as she's crying. It was so beautiful. I loved it so much that I'm this guy has to be in more of this series. This sucks me in. That is what I want. Okay. So I only notice artwork if it really sucks me in. There's a big contrast versus the rest of the series, which is kind of what happens with the Patrick Gleason versus everything else. Or I'll notice it if it pulls me out of the story. Other than that, I'm not super picky about the artwork. Let's move on to the story. If I was to recommend you to pick up any part of this series, it would be the first book in this series. So that would be the Tombstone arc. All right, so the first 5 issues, if you're gonna collect the issues, the single standalone issues themselves, I'll collect the first 5 issues for sure. Tombstone arc is really great. It was one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, maybe my favorite Spider-Man villain. Gives a great backstory for him and goes more into his backstory. I love that philosophical thing that he brings up, talking about Secret Wars 2 that I talked about earlier. I like these philosophical debates and philosophical issues about a bad man. And the reason it struck such a chord with me and why I brought up that panel in particular is because Bethany will always talk about how, there are no, like, if there's like a bad dog, it's like, oh, that's because it was abused, or that's because, like, it was mistreated. She's like, she defends dogs, she defends animals. But then if it's a bad man in a series, he's just an asshole. And it's like she's alone in that. I do that too. And we've also talked about this on our other channel as well, that hurt people hurt people. And this is bad behavior is learned. It's conditioned unless you're like a psychopath or a sociopath. So I like that they deal with that, and that Tombstone of all the characters is the one to bring it up. I thought that was really cool. The writing in this, the storytelling in this is pretty good. Some issues are okay, some issues are better than others or whatever, but overall, the writing's really solid. I haven't gotten to the dark web part of the series yet, so I'll be reviewing that on its own, because it has also some tie-in issues with other series, so I'll be reviewing that whole thing on its own at a later date. What I'm really interested in is getting the big reveal. It's going to come in, I think, later, maybe in issue 24 or 25. There's a big reveal about something that happened to Spider-Man, to Peter Parker 6 months ago. That's how this starts. It starts off like, Spider-Man's all crazy and he's gone through some shit and we don't know what it is. And I'm thinking in my mind, since I haven't read any new issues of Spider-Man in 10 years, thinking, oh crap, maybe I need to go back and read some issues to figure out what the hell happened. Thankfully, you don't. You can just start this series. You don't have to have read anything else in Spider-Man. You can just pick the series up and you'll be fine. Obviously, if you read more Spider-Man, you'll know more and you'll get more out of it probably. You'll notice more, but you don't have to. All right, Miss Marvel. If you like Miss Marvel, she makes some cameos in this one as well, and she has a tie-in series with the Dark Web series. So the middle of the series is actually kind of lacking, but the first 5 issues and then 9 through 14 are good. And first 5 issues, like I said, my favorite. I definitely recommend that. But if you're a Hobgoblin fan, then issues 9 through 14, which would be volume 3 in the book series, I would recommend getting. It brings in the Spidey glider, which I think is pretty cool. A new little device for Spider-Man, putting him on even footing with some of his enemies like Hobgoblin and Green Goblin from back in the day. And there's a nice little twist in there with the Hobgoblin stories. It's not like the best Hobgoblin arc ever. It's kind of their more nostalgic, I would say. Whereas the Tombstone one, I think, is solid. Like, even if you're not a huge Tombstone fan, I think you really enjoy that one. Whereas the Hobgoblin series, one, it's got issue number 9, which I really loved, from Patrick Gleason, so you'll be able to see that. Thanks so much for checking out this episode. If you want to collect Spider-Man issues, go ahead and check out the description of this video. There's some links to some Spider-Man books for this series. Like I said, I recommend the first one for sure to pick up. The others you can pick up if you're a fan of Spider-Man and you just want to, know more about his story and you want to see where this mystery is going, about what had happened to him, and you want to learn more about Norman Osborn, then go ahead and pick up the rest of the series as well. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the Amazing Spider-Man series and more about why I collect comics.